Russia is one of the top producers of oil and natural gas. Energy exports are the lifeblood of the Russian economy, so much so that John McCain once said,
"Russia is a gas station masquerading as a country."
And with its vast network of pipelines connecting it to its neighbours, Russia can exert significant influence outside its borders.
My name is Noah Brenner. I'm the Eastern Hemisphere Editorial Director for Energy Intelligence. We cover all aspects of energy, as well as energy policy and geopolitics. Russia's traditional oil and gas producing areas are here in Western Siberia, and then we see an array of pipeline connections moving across Western Russia into Eastern, Central, and eventually onto Western Europe.
One of those pipelines, Nord Stream 1, can deliver 55 billion cubic meters of gas to the EU every year.
Nord Stream 2 would have doubled the amount of gas that Russia was moving into Germany. Now, of course, that made Western partners, particularly the United States, nervous because they saw it as locking in a role and a demand for Russian gas in Germany, but also for Russia within the energy policy and the geopolitical sphere of Europe.
In response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Nord Stream 2 has been halted.
Und ohne diese Zertifizierung kann Nord Stream 2 ja nicht in Betrieb gehen.
But Europe isn't the only market for Russian energy.
Oil demand and gas demand in Europe generally have been thought to have peaked. And so the future for Russia and the future for Russia's energy trade is towards Asia and towards China in particular.
In Russia's far east lie another set of gas fields, and these connect to China via a pipeline called the Power of Siberia. In 2019, state media in China reported that it was expected to deliver 38 billion cubic meters of gas every year by 2024.
Russia has proposals on the table to build a second one, known as the Power of Siberia 2. But this alliance between Russia and China can be seen as another way that Russia is able to leverage its oil and gas supplies globally to create influence beyond what might be possible were it not this energy powerhouse.
Control over such giant energy supplies has some countries, particularly in Europe, worried about Russia's leverage. Those worries increased when 2 months into the invasion of Ukraine, Russia announced it was cutting off natural gas supplies to Poland and Bulgaria. Russia supplies 40% of Europe's gas, and the alternatives are either underdeveloped green sources, phased down nuclear plants, or climate-wrecking coal. Europe does have other supplies of natural gas via countries like Italy and Spain, but they cannot supply it in the way Russia can. With energy revenue crucial for Russia, any loss of sales could be damaging. But as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues and Western sanctions persist, so too does the threat of more export cutoffs.
The conflict in Ukraine with Russia's invasion has created seismic shifts within the way that Europe thinks about its energy, where it gets its energy from. Europe always knew that it was dependent on Russian energy, and this was always seen as a weak point in its geopolitical and its security framework. This invasion and the rapidity and the force that Russia has employed in Ukraine has really galvanized Europe in a way to tackle this much more seriously than we've seen before.
All right, Shalom, Wa Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Kol Haloya, La Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, infinite honor, glory, and praises be to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rakakwadash, in the name of the Holy Spirit. I greet you with greetings and blessings, through the Habakkuk. Once again, I say Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai. All praises, honor, and glory be to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai. Double honor as always, Thum Yad, to the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, love, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Habayath Madabada, the house of David, the brothers laboring day in and day out to make their calling of election sure on the four corners of the earth, giving all diligence, helping awake, the believers, the Bacarium, the 1/3, the unnumbered multitude. So to the house of David, peace and blessings and mercy unto you, and to the Akim and Akwaf, the brothers and sisters that listen and truly believe on the glorious gospel that's being preached on the four corners of the earth. Unto you I say shalom. Shalom to the hopeful elect. I'm going to jump right into it. The premise of this lesson is going to be from the video that was just shown on the screen. I'm going to read briefly in this article here, and it's from CNN.com, and it's dated July the 20th, 2022. So the article here says, London, CNN Business, the European Union has unveiled its emergency gas rationing plan a day before it fears Russia could drastically cut the flow of natural gas to the continent. The Save Gas for a Winter plan, announced Wednesday, sets the target for the 27 member states to reduce their gas demand by 15% between August and March next year. That reduction is based on countries' average gas consumption during the same months over the previous 5 years. The plan is focused on curtailing demand by businesses and in public buildings rather than private homes. Among the proposed measures, the EU Commission is encouraging industry to switch to alternative energy sources. And those alternative energy sources, solar and wind and other, other forms of, alternative energy that would make Europe less energy dependent upon Russia. Because as of right now, Russia, supplies close to half of the fuel and natural gas in Europe. And a lot of that is due to proximity, of course, of Europe, to Russia. Now, continuing on, it says, among the proposed measures, the EU Commission is encouraging energy to switch to alternative energy sources, including coal, where necessary, and to introduce auction systems that compensate companies for reducing their gas consumption. The Commission is also hoping to pass a new law that would give it the power to force states to reduce their demand for gas when there is a substantial risk of a severe gas shortage or an exceptionally high gas demand, it is said in the press release. So that was all I wanted from that article. I'm going to jump right into it through the spirit, because what we're witnessing and seeing is, the domino effect of World War III, the proxy wars, and the nations aligning each other, which we've seen that through NATO. The new members, that have joined, Finland and Sweden, and then also the response to that through the BRICS alliance, right? And part of that is, the nations that are joining the BRICS alliance recently. So we're seeing, which was Argentina, Argentina, I'm trying to remember the other nation, it'll come to me in a second. But we see in that BRICS alliance that those nations are getting stronger. Iran as well, right? And I think there's other nations that's looking to join. So Iran and Argentina being two more of the nations that joined BRICS, along with a few more. Now, the point is, these different alliances, the saber rattling, which is the nations, the provocation, which is the nations, threatening each other with, sanctions and so on and so forth, and the different alliances is going on. This is all what's going on in the world, because this is the drumbeat to World War III. Now, I got a quick precept here in the spirit, just popped up in my head. When you get into this, before we jump into it, this is what's found, in the book of Jeremiah, I believe. See if I can find that. This is what's known, what we're witnessing and seeing as the sound of battle. This is Jeremiah 50:22. It says, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. So the sound of battle is what we're hearing. That's in the land, that's in the earth. And it says of great destruction. So out of all the different times on the earth that there's been war, there's never been the prospect of, world war on a level of this nuclear war. There's never been world war with the threat of nuclear war attached to it. Now, in World War II, we know the Manhattan Project produced the atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But the level of technology and weaponry now through those ICBMs, those intercontinental ballistic missiles, is 1,000 times greater force. So the sound of battle that's in the land, it says the end of great destruction. And that great destruction was what was being prophesied, throughout the Holy Scriptures as World War III, the Battle of Armageddon, and basically the end of the rule of the wicked. Now, that sound of battle is also found here, quick precept in Isaiah 13:4. It says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. So this is a terrible noise. That sound of battle is a terrible noise, a tumultuous noise, it says, of the nations gathered together. So the nations are being gathered together, right? By the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. It says, Yahweh of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. So the Most High, is actually inviting these nations, to continue to push, this energy of war on the earth, nuclear war. So the Most High is inviting them through the Spirit to come down and fight in the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, or Jehoshaphat, which means, Yahweh's judgment. Verse 5, Isaiah 13:5, they come, speaking of the missiles, it's going to be shot throughout the ends of the earth, and especially here in Babylon, which is going to completely destroy America, Babylon the Great. Isaiah 13:5, they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even, it says, even Yahweh and the weapons of his indignation, his righteous anger, to destroy the whole land. And that whole land is speaking of America. It's going to be completely destroyed. And we know that Israel is going to be destroyed too, and the other nations are, but we know through prophecy that America is going to be completely destroyed. That is the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, the God of heaven and earth. So now, that's that sound of battle, that tumultuous noise. Now, what is that as we continue to read throughout the scriptures? Let's get another precept. 2 Ezra 15, starting at verse 14, and it reads, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. So the scriptures say, woe to the world, which is death and destruction. It says, and to them that dwell therein. Now let's go to Isaiah 13 and go right to the point and get a precept. Why does it say woe to the world? Let's go back to Isaiah 13:11. Isaiah 13:11, and it reads, and I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. So the Most High said he's going to punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity. So this is the Most High's indignation, his punishment to the world. Now let's go back to 2 Ezra 15, starting back at verse 14, and it reads, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Verse 15, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. So what we're witnessing is the beginning, of not only world war that's eventually to ensue, but we're also seeing that world war being, accompanied, in the spirit by civil unrest, which, as we continue to read, lawlessness and sedition amongst the people, uprisings. Verse 15, 2 Ezra 15:15 again, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Speaking about the people of these different nations around the earth. And this is speaking about race wars and civil unrest, right? So the civil war, race wars, that's all coming back in these last days. Verse 16, 2 Ezra 15:16, for there shall be sedition among men, the overthrow of the government, right? Once again, civil unrest. So that's that sedition is coming. It says, in invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. And those are all your ruling powers on the earth, which are known as presidents and prime ministers, princes, the Saudi princes, known as actual princes, but your prime ministers and your presidents, which are the heads of the nations, the heads of the government, and the different governments around the world. They're not going to regard their words. They're not going to care, right? So that's the spirit that the Most High is putting on the people of the earth. It says, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power, meaning whatever people want to do, when we're at the height of Jacob's trouble worldwide, people are going to just do whatever they want to do. That's why the scriptures say that the dead bodies are going to be like dung upon the earth, and they're not going to suffer to put dead bodies in graves anymore. That's how terrible it's going to get out here. Verse 17, 2 Ezra 15:17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And I always like to reference the city of Boston during the time of the Boston bomber, when they shut the city off in 8 to 10 hours or so, and then they triangulated, the different coordinates, and eventually found, You know, the Boston bomber, one of them were killed. The oldest was killed and the other was taken into custody. That was the city being shut off. People weren't able to go and maneuver around in the city. And there were curfews. And that's what's coming back, which that goes into martial law. Verse 18, 2nd Ezra 15 and 18, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. That's why the scriptures refer to this time as the time of great sorrow, the time of sorrows, which the prophet Ezra said, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? Verse 19, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, right? So that's showing you that this is going to be a dog-eat-dog world. People are going to truly understand what that means. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword. The modern day sword is the gun, and spoil their goods and take whatever things that they can get, because there's going to be a shortage of supplies. There's going to be a famine of food in the land, and it's going to be a famine of the word because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation, which is the time of Jacob's trouble. Now here's the point I wanted to get to. Verse 20, 2nd Ezra 15 and 20, behold, saith the Most High, I will call together all the kings of the earth. And that's what we read in Isaiah 13 and 11. You know, and at the top part of this chapter reading down, we see that the Most High is calling all the ruling powers on the earth. Continuing on, I'll read it again. 2nd Ezra 15 and 20, behold, saith the Most High, I will call together all the kings of the earth. So the Most High is calling all the kings of the earth to come together to fight, to fulfill prophecy, to reverence me. And reverence is to have deep respect and fear. So the fear of the Most High, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, is coming back in the earth. The name of Yahweh, why Yahushai, is being made great in the earth again, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, from the east, and Libanus, to turn themselves one against another. So the Most High is turning the nations against each other. That's why we see these different alliances going on. And repay the things that they have done to them, and pay the things that they have done to the chosen, as you continue to read, unto the children of Israel, which lines up with Psalm the 83rd chapter. And also, it lines up with Joel, the 3rd chapter, which I'll get. So what we're witnessing is the Most High calling the nations together, you know, to fight in World War III, the battle of Armageddon in the Hebrew, Armageddon. That's what we're witnessing, which is a domino effect. So the domino effect is the conflict in World War III that's going to ensue. And there's a saying in the world, when you see these nations aligning together, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So you see different nations that you know, have different enemies, but, you know, based off of these alliances that's going on, you see certain nations joining with other nations, even though at times before they might not have had, you know, close ties, but you're seeing it now because, you know, certain enemies, many nations hate Babylon the Great, which is America. So a lot of nations are joining on to come against Babylon, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So we're seeing that, right, through the aligning and the uprisings as well. So now this is the Most High calling all the nations. Let's show that. Let's just start at the top. Joel 3 and 1, it says, for behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, which is Yahweh and Yerushalayim, the northern and southern kingdom. So when it says bring again, that means he's going to take away. Take away what? The children of Israel being in captivity over 400 years here in Babylon, right? Just like in ancient Egypt. In New Egypt here, Babylon the Great, America, which is bondage, the Most High is getting ready to take away, you know, our burden of being, you know, enslaved, of servitude. Right? The Most High is getting ready to take that away. Verse 2, Joel 3 and 2, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat in the Hebrew, and will plead with them there for my people. It says, for my heritage Israel, Yasha'Allah, whom they have scattered among the nations and part of my land. And I quote it again, Psalm the 83rd chapter. You know, Deuteronomy 28 and 64, and Deuteronomy 28 and 68, how our people were scattered to the four corners of the earth via cargo slave ship. So this is all the recompense, you know, of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai to the nations. Now let's go down and hit the point. What does this recompense look like? Joel 3 and 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, the heathen nations. Prepare war. So the Most High The Valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat in the Hebrew, is all about war being prepared. World War III. Wake up the mighty man. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. It goes on to say, verse 10, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So a lot of nations before that weren't, a key factor on the earth 30, 40, 50 years ago. Now, these nations have done what? They've acquired the ICBM, the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, which makes them a major player on the world scene. Nations like North Korea, India, Pakistan, nations like Iran, Syria. Joel 3:11, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather together, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither calls thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. Let the heathen be weakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat, which means Yahweh judges. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. So this is the judgment of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, is bringing the nations together to fight, once again in World War III. Now let's show that with another precept and close it out. This is the book of Zephaniah 3 and verse 8. And it reads, showing this is the will of the Most High, gathering all the nations for World War III. That's why the scriptures tell us to rejoice and be glad. For the Most High have avenged you on her in Revelation, the 18th chapter. And in her is speaking of Babylon. And that avenging is the nations coming together to fight, one against another, while the children of Israel, the elect of the children of Israel, the nation of Israel, is going to be protected and get salvation, ultimately. Zephaniah 3 and 8, therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations. So the Most High is determined to bring World War III to the earth, that I may assemble the kingdoms. While none of these nations can do anything to offset the will of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Even when they say peace and safety, the scriptures say, just know that sudden destruction draweth nigh. Now in the spirit, I believe, I'm just speaking in the spirit, that we're getting the time of peace and safety is drawing close, because the tensions are rising to the greatest extent. You got Nancy Pelosi, nasty Nancy over in Taiwan, when China just said throughout the week, if Nancy Pelosi goes to Taiwan, they're going to look at that as an act of war, and they posture with, potentially shooting the plane down. Now that didn't happen, but now it's believed that through satellite imagery and, through intel, a lot of the Chinese are starting to move a lot of their warships and military equipment toward the Taiwanese people to go and annex it, like they had said that they were going to do anyway. So it shows you this is all the will of Ha'adawan, of the Lord, Yahweh Yahushua. Let's read that again, Zephaniah 3 and 8. It says, for my determination is to gather the nations. So that is really the chief thing that's going on. The Most High is gathering the nations together for World War III, that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them mine indignation, which is the righteous anger of Yahweh, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. So this is the recompense to the nations, and recompense to Esau Edom, which is the fall of the wicked. When you read 2 Ezra, the 6th chapter, where it tells you that Esau is the end of the world, when you read 2 Ezra 6, verses 7 through 9, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, which is the rule of Yashar'Allah, Israel. So with that, I hope that was edifying to the hopeful elect. Barakateh Yahweh, Barakateh Yahushai, Barakateh Yahweh, Barakateh Yahushai, Call Haloyim La Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakak Wadash. Double honor as always. Them Yah to the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, love, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Habayah from Madawadah, the house of David, the brothers laboring day in and day out, giving all diligence to make their calling of election sure on the four corners of the earth. Help us seal the elect of the nation of Israel for the return of our Lord. Allah Hayanawa Yahweh, while Yahweh Shai, is at hand, and to the Akim and Akwaf who listen and truly believe on the glorious gospel of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua that's being preached worldwide. Unto you I say shalom. So shalom to the hopeful elect.